Now we come to a section that's very heavily weighted on the exams, processing text. There are a number of commands. If you look in the objectives, the list seems to be about this long. Well, it is. And each one of those commands is for a particular purpose, processing text. And what you remember, usually have to remember for Linux and Unix commands, is that each command is its own individual unit. It does something, it does it very well, and it accepts standard input from another command and produces standard output, which should be usable by another command. So knowing this, let's go into and take a look at some of the tools that we have to understand in order to be a good system administrator, but also for the exam. The sort command. Sort has a number of different things that can happen. There's a lot of options for sort, but let's take a look at some of the standard options. Let's say that we have a numbered list. So my numbered list file here starts with 1, 2, 3, all the way down to 12. If I do a standard sort of numbered list, I'm going to get an interesting result. Notice that we have number 1 and then 10, 11, 12, 2, 3, 4. This is not a standard numeric sort. This is a mathematically correct sort, but it's not a human readable sort. The way that we can fix this is to use sort minus n for the standard numeric, 1 through 10, 11 through 20, that sort of thing, and run it again, and now you see that it's back to normal. So sort minus n is very, very useful. You can also sort based upon fields. I've got a couple tips in here for you. So sort minus m will merge and sort files. So file 1 and file 2, it'll take them and try to put them together in the correct order. Sort minus k allows you to sort on the second field or the third field or the fourth field or whatever. Take a look at your version of sort, because sort might start with field 0 as the first field, or it might start with field 1 as the first field. You'll definitely get different results depending upon what you do. NL is a great program. It numbers lines. Now we already have a list called numbered list, so we could do NL numbered list and see that it does the exact same numbers here. We could also run NL against the list that I have and give it, it's not numbered already, give it a set of numbers. If it shows on the screen, you can send it back to a file. So for example, I might want to take and say NL the list and send that to new numbered list. So what I'm going to get is a actual file that has the same items that were in the file list, and now they're properly numbered. So you'll see the cat command, you'll see the NL command, you'll see possibly printing commands, so the PR command. You'll see these strung together. You need to know what these commands do and how they work together. Okay, let's jump back in real quick and take a look at a couple of the options for NL. The first option you'll need to think about is NL minus P, which prints consecutive page numbers, no pages. Okay, just prints all the pages. NL minus BA will number all lines in a file. So for example, and this is important to know, let's say that I have my file list, and in here I have a couple of blank lines. And those blank lines, if I do an NL list, you're going to see that it doesn't number those lines. So it'll skip from 6, 2 blank lines, to 7 and keep going. However, if I do an NL minus BA of list, you'll see that it goes ahead and numbers every single line regardless. So in other words, if you have code output or it's something that you need to refer to by numbers, and you want to absolutely refer to every single line, blank or otherwise, with a number, then you're going to use NL minus BA as opposed to just simply NL. These are important distinctions that you will need to know. Notice that that's in red. WC, this is a great tool. So let's do a quick little thing about who's on my system right now. So I say who, and I get 2 users. One is a TTY user, the other is a PTS user. If you remember what PTSs are, that's a remote terminal. So not a local terminal, but a remote terminal. Let's say that I decide that I have a lot of users. I want to know how many users are actually on my system. If there's no header to the output of the command, then I can assume that the number of lines that I see, like with the who command, is going to be representative of the number of users that are attached to my system. So I can say WC minus L backtick who. Oops. Let's do that again. Who, pipe it to WC minus L, and we see that we get the number 2 back. So this number 2 is the number of lines. We said WC minus L, which is lines. there are 3 different options. If I were to take a file like WC minus, I'll just do WC and file 1, we see that file 1 has 311 words, let's see, words, lines, and characters. So 311 lines, 311 words, and 3,224 characters. Let's take a look at that file so you can get an idea of it. And it's a very long file. Okay, it has a word per line. It has that number of lines, and the number of characters is the last number. Okay, so word count can help you with figuring out how many characters. Let's say you're writing an article for, a magazine, and you want to have 500 characters or 600 words, or you want to have a total number of lines of a standard size. Word count can help you a great deal with that. So you just run that against your file, you're ready to go. The expand command. Expand is one of those ones that's kind of interesting because of the differences between the different types of editors. You're going to see sometimes that an editor will include tabs in the output, and other times it will simply replace the tabs with spaces. If you need to change tab characters, ASCII tab characters, over to regular spaces in order to get the formatting that you need, then you can use the expand command. So for example, let's enter VI with the expanded text file, and let's insert, and let's do a tab. This is a tabbed line. This is a regular line. And if I take this and save, if I do a cat expanded text, I'll see this. If I type expanded text, I will see that. It's almost exactly the same thing, but what I can do is I can pull the tab character out of there and replace it with spaces in case the program that I'm using to output this, text or PR or whatever, doesn't support the tabs properly. I can make it explicit with spaces. This is similar to, say, a webmaster using single pixel transparent GIFs or PNG files in order to be able to put things where you want it on the page. A lot of formatting is being used there. All right, so that's sort, NL for number lines, WC for word count, and then of course the expand command, which takes care of your tabs. Now let's talk about a fun one, the cut command. There are many times that you'll have data that is comma delimited or space delimited, or in some like the etc passwd file is colon delimited. What you can do with the cut command is you can do kind of columnar database operations. You can go in and say, I want column 1 and column 6, and I want this to be created into a new file. So for example, if I have a file such as the cat the numbered list here, you see this file, I can say cut and then 20 and then numbered list. Nope, not going to work. Hang on just a second here. There we go, cut minus C, sorry about that. Just doing cut minus F a moment ago, 1 through 10 and numbered list, and you're going to see just the first 10 characters. So character number 1 through character number 10. Whatever's after that is totally discarded. Now this is helpful, but if my data is of different sizes in between the field delimiters, this is not delimited data at all, maybe space delimited, which is hardly delimited. But let's say we wanted to have the etc passwd file. We wanted to pull a couple columns out of that one. Let's take a look at what's going to happen with that. So if you look here, we can say cut minus F, and then we can take a particular field. It's very important that you use the delimiter here for anything that is not tab or space delimited. The delimiter for the etc passwd file is a colon. So let's take a look at how that works. So cut minus F, 1 to 3, first 3 fields, and then minus minus delimiter equals colon, and then the file that we're taking, and we should get the first 3 fields out of the etc passwd file. You can do 1-3 for fields 1 through 3, or 1, 3, 5 to get fields 1, 3, and 5. Now you know that the moment that you can produce something like standard output and put it onto the screen, you can do something else with that. You might even be able to send an email to all the users in your database telling them what their, in your etc passwd file, telling them what their home directories are and urging them please not to fill up those home directories, otherwise you'll have to install quotas. So you'll find that the cut command is extremely useful. The paste command is pretty straightforward. It takes the output from one file, merges it with another file, and then puts that to standard output. Now, one of the things that you need to think about is, do I have the right kind of files to work with paste? So if I do a cat of numbered list, and then I do a cat of list, let's see, let's go ahead and modify list back real quick to make sure that we don't have those two open lines. So let's cat two files again. Now, what's going to happen if I take these two files and I try to paste them? I'll say paste, numbered, and list. And what happened? So if you look at the way the files went, you'll see, and I did these with two files that were fairly similar as far as their content. You'll see that you have the contents of file 1, that first line, and then the contents of file 2, the first line. Then you have the contents of file 1, the second line, contents of file 2, the second line. It's only when we get down to this set of lines here that you see that the words are long enough where that actually pushes them over. Okay? So paste actually takes file 1's content line by line and matches it with file 2. So you're kind of doing a database operation, but it's a very, very simplistic and not very useful database operation. When you want to get to something a little more complex, you can use the join command, which if you have files that have common fields, so you need to have a key field like the UID or the username, you can take two files as long as they contain a common field and join those two together in what's essentially a database join, but it's a text mode database. Now let's talk about the unique command or unique command, whichever way you want to talk about it. The unique command takes let's say that you've got two systems that you want to merge the etc passwd files for. You know that you have multiple users on those systems that are the same. So therefore you might want to take those two files and sort them and then run unique upon them and only get the output of the unique users. So as an example here, I've got a file called names, and names has Larry, Steve, Sasha, Tom, David, Rose, Monique, Tom, Lisa, Rose, Steve, and Donald. You've got a few non-uniques in there, right? So what we're going to want to do, we could run unique and names, but the problem is that if they're not next to each other, the non-uniques are not sorted to be consecutive with each other, then it's not going to be able to find them and remove them. So what we'll do is we'll take and we'll run the sort command on names, which gives us that output, which is alphabetical or alphanumeric output. And if we run the same command again and pipe it through unique, you'll see that it now drops it to just the number of users that are unique inside that file. Now if you wanted to, you could take that last command and send this to a new names file. Oops, sorry, not a pipe. Very important, not a pipe. It needs to be a redirect symbol. And now if we cat the new names file, you're going to see exactly what we had put in there. Okay? So the concept being, remember that Unix commands, we take, every command does one thing or a few things really well. It accepts standard input, which means I pipe something to it, or I cat a file to it, or I sort it or whatever, and then it also produces standard output, which means that I can pipe that into another command, or I can send that to a text file somewhere on the disk. Okay? Very important that we keep those in mind. You will be tested on these files. You will be tested on how they work. How do you create files from their output? How do you send input to these programs? Remember our concept of a command, options that alter what the command does, and then an argument of some kind, which is typically a file that you're either reading to or reading from. Okay, now let's